We all know our jobs are probably next on the chopping block when it comes to AI, but schools and teachers specifically have been especially hard hit by the proliferation of AI. I saw this story on the news yet again about a teacher who quit her job because she realized that her efforts were futile. There's a lot of teachers who held on to this belief that somehow they could inspire their students or maybe even admonish them into learning the traditional way, which is that you take homework home, take a lot of time to complete these assignments, you come back to school and you work on the school assignments with no help from your peer or from the internet when Google came around. But as someone who's always known search engines such as Google, generative AI seems like a completely different dimension of accessibility that we have now foisted upon ourselves. So now the obvious question is whether our education systems are going to be able to adapt to the changing landscape. And my simple opinion is that I don't think they do. Either AI is going to thrive or the education system is going to thrive. I think these things are diametrically opposed to each other at this point because the entire purpose, the mission statement, if you will, of the education system broadly is significantly disrupted by the capabilities of AI. And I think that the only alternative here is something like tutorship, which AI seems like it has a lot of potential for. One-on-one tutorship where the AI understands your specific needs, it understands exactly where the gaps in your knowledge lies. It's able to tailor its guidance and instruction specifically to the way that you learn best. But obviously that doesn't mean we're not going to be missing anything if we lose the education system altogether, the traditional one that we currently have, which by so many estimates is already archaic and obsolete even before generative AI came along. So it's like this then was already fractured and now we've thrown a cannonball right through it. Like any traditional system, there are some advantages in there that we should salvage and we should be cautious about dispelling altogether. Two of these things that come to mind with the education system as we've had it is the emotional intelligence that comes from dealing with our peers on a daily basis. Now, to a large degree, online education, even without generative AI, had started to disrupt that. But that doesn't mean we should let go of that altogether. I feel like there are other means. If we know that that is something that was of benefit to us, we need not get it directly from our education, whatever that turns out to be down the line, but we should know that that is something that we need to at least supplement in our lives. Supplement seems to minimize the importance of it, but you get the point. We should be able to find that, knowing that it is something that we are lacking on. The other point here, or the other benefit with the traditional education systems that I can think of is the networking capability. These two things, emotional intelligence and networking potential, are things that we all know benefits us in society, but they do seem a bit abstract. It's a bit hard to quantify them. As a student going through school, your main objective is not necessarily to network or to develop emotional intelligence. Rather, it's to acquire knowledge. So if anything, it seems like a secondary goal. Whether it's a goal we were intentional about or not, it is a benefit that we got from the traditional education system that we're going to have to find a way to replace or replicate in the new education system that we're inevitably going to find ourselves in. I'm sure there's other benefits of the education system that are not easily replicated in the AI-driven world that we're moving into. But I think those are starting points that seem pretty obvious to me. Now, it bears mentioning that there's always been alternatives to the traditional schooling system. There's private schools, there's hybrid schools, there's been online schools, there's one-on-one tutorship after schools, all kinds of permutations of these. And I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm not even privy to. And more recently, there's other ventures like Jordan Peterson Academy, or just Peterson Academy, I should say, where the goal is to try to bring back the openness of ideas in schools because he finds that that is the main issue that is plaguing schools these days. A lot of censorship in the traditional schools that his school is a reaction to. But I'm not sure any of those are going to survive the age of AI. I truly believe that once all is said and done, there's not going to be any education alternative that does not incorporate AI significantly in its teaching, grading methods. And I think more and more one-on-one tutorship with an AI is going to be the norm. There's already this school that I saw online where the whole school is meant to facilitate that interaction between the student and the AI. Now, it sounds like the beginning of a dystopian novel where you have students in a classroom learning from AI. And who knows, maybe our future is just as bleak as that dystopian novel, but it doesn't strike me as obviously bad. this problem that we currently have with our schooling system, our education system, with AI disrupting it, is basically that students have no interest in learning this material in the first place. Students are being forced to learn that material, and necessarily so in certain cases, but not in all cases. So what AI does is it offers students an ability to outsource the things that they care little to none about and focus on the things that they are actually interested in, similar to how we use AI in our jobs, where the things that are mundane and we don't feel really needs any creativity or human involvement, we outsource to AI happily, and those that we feel needs more fine-tuning, we give it the requisite attention. So while AI makes it incredibly easy to cheat, to the chagrin of so many teachers, it also makes it incredibly easy to learn. And the goal should be to try to thread that needle. Exactly how do we go about making a structure in which students can learn exactly what they need to learn and make that as efficient and effective as possible, as opposed to all the fluff and the expense that we've had with the traditional education system that people are rightfully upset about? Because not only are you going to come out of it not even guaranteed a job, but what you're learning is probably not something you're even going to need for that job if you were to get it in the first place. So there's a lot of issues that go way beyond the ones that I just mentioned with the traditional education system that are reasonably going to be let go of. And I believe this new world is not one that we should run away from. So the response to the incredible pace at which this technology is moving should not be to recoil from it. That's never worked out for anybody. Ask all the older people who are so intimidated by getting into the current education system because they don't know how to use a computer, they don't know how to use a cell phone. You would be surprised just how many older people would have loved to get back into school had it not been for these technological barriers. And you can imagine how this affects them in the workplace as well. So stepping back from the technology that is inevitable is really not the solution here. The solution should be to try to learn it as best as possible, try to be able to shape it in the way that we feel is going to be more productive and aligned with our interests. Because if not, the very effort to try to remove ourselves from being victims of this technology by isolating ourselves from it could be the very thing that guarantees our victimhood when it comes to them. As a quick but important addendum to this, it's worth noting that students are not the only ones using AI anymore. All the creative measures that were put in place to try to avoid students using AI have all become obsolete already, from bringing students back to pen and paper, to the AI detectors, to proctoring tests, or bringing students in person to take tests. All of these offer no hope whatsoever in the age of AI because the teachers and administrators themselves are using AI. They're using it to create the curriculum, they're using it to create the assignments, and they're using it to grade the assignments. So as you can see, this entire setup has no place for a human other than the prompting. It's AI from top to bottom in the education system. And if you have any hope that perhaps it's not so bad for teachers or administrators to use AI as much as it is for students to use AI, well, think again, because what is the implication of that for the teacher's job? They're essentially saying that I can't grade as efficiently and as effectively as an AI, so I'm just going to outsource my work to it. What greater indicator is there of the obsolescence of the education system than that?